When you say that Senator Rick Scott of Florida is no longer in the mix, does that tell you anything about the breakdown of votes that these men got?
He had kind of that anti-establishment vote. He was certainly more aligned with President-elect Trump.
Donald Trump is poised to wreak unfathomable havoc on the American people for the next 4 years. And that sucks, but we have to seek the silver linings and small victory when and where they can be found. And I actually have one for you, because right now, Maga is currently freaking out publicly because their candidate to replace Mitch McConnell as the Senate Republican leader was just defeated in his first round, and we have to talk about it. But before we do, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, got a clip to play here. We're going to let Fox do some of the explaining, and then we'll dive into what this means for Maga and Maga's reaction to it, because it's pretty funny.
That's right. The first vote is over, and there was no clear winner on that first ballot. What does that mean? There are three candidates, John Thune, John Cornyn, and Rick Scott. We are told that Rick Scott did not make the cut. The vote getter who got the fewest ballots drops off for the second round, so it goes to a second ballot. Now, generally, it was thought that this race would favor John Thune, the current Republican whip, if he were to win going away on that first ballot. That did not happen here. The question that I would pose at this point is whether or not those who were for Rick Scott, who do those votes go for? Do they go for John Thune? Do they go for John Cornyn? There was one school of thought that it might be kind of broken up here. We have had other leadership races where we've had one slate of voters go to somebody else, but that is not wrapped up right now. So they go to a second ballot. And again, there are 53 Republicans voting in this leadership election here. 53 Republicans, including current senators. They don't include the senators who are leaving. They retired or lost. And then you have senators-elect, and J.D. Vance, of course, is voting in this leadership race as well here. He did not comment as to who he was supporting, and President-elect Trump has not weighed in.
So, Chad, just real quickly, when you say that Senator Rick Scott of Florida is no longer in the mix, does that tell you anything about the breakdown of votes that these men got?
Well, that's why it's so hard to read here, because he had kind of that anti-establishment vote. He was certainly more aligned with President-elect Trump. There were some who wanted a break from the current leadership ranks. Keep in mind that John Thune is the current whip. John Cornyn has been the former whip. Some of these folks, who voted for Rick Scott, they did not get along with Mitch McConnell, and they thought they wanted to get a break from that old leadership team. But obviously, you're not going to get that, because the two candidates now are Thune and Cornyn.
So now you're getting the gist of it, and you can already see where this is going. Maga is not happy. Again, though, to provide context, Rick Scott is out from the first round. He only received 13 votes out of 23. We'll get into some of those votes. And as a matter of fact, one of those votes was Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz posted on Twitter earlier this morning, prior to the first round, that he was backing Rick Scott, just like he backed Rick Scott, he said previously, against Mitch McConnell. He said he's looking forward to a break from the McConnell-era politics. Looks like he's not going to get one. So Nick Fuentes, a white supremacist, anti-Semite, he is very upset. Rick Scott is now out of the running for Senate Majority Leader. The remaining choices are Thune and Cornyn, who are both terrible on immigration. Maga just can't catch a break. You should have listened. Libs of TikTok is really upset. Rick Scott is out for Senate leadership. This is disgraceful. These senators don't care about what their voters think. Time to show them who they work for. Nick Sordor, Rick Scott is out for the race for majority leader. Second ballot is underway. It's now Thune versus Cornyn. The Senate doesn't give a crap about Americans. And we're probably going to see backlash from high-profile MAGA influencers, or more increasing number of high-profile MAGA Republicans throughout the day. And I encourage you to savor, to bask in their despair, just as they are enjoying the fact that we lost this 2024 election and they successfully elected an insurrectionist, authoritarian, malignant narcissist, pathological liar, adjudicated fraudster, and rapist. So just as they delight in our despair when it comes to that, make sure that in these small silver linings and small victories, when MAGA is repudiated, at least to some extent, that you take note of that as well. To go into some more details about the sort of support that Rick Scott has, Politico had a breakdown of this just yesterday. Just days after Trump's thundering presidential victory, top MAGA luminaries this weekend set their sights on swinging another election, winning the top Senate leadership post for Rick Scott. So let's think about this. Look at who Rick Scott had backing him publicly and openly. Elon Musk, Tucker Carlson, RFK Jr., Vivek Ramaswamy, Charlie Kirk. one by one, each declared that Trump's election romp necessitates a complete overhaul atop the Senate GOP, fingering the Floridian as the perfect man for the job, spurning John Cornyn and John Thune, the more establishment types considered frontrunners for the race. Quote, only Rick Scott understands the urgency of the moment, tweeted CPAC honcho Matt Schlapp, capturing the tenor of the online campaign. This morning, we have a news flash for Scott's overzealous allies. Congratulations, your campaign appears to be backfiring badly. Things took a turn around 7 p.m. yesterday when MAGA YouTube star Benny Johnson posted a purported whip count to his 3 million follower X account. You can decide for yourself how credible a list that counted Thune as voting for Cornyn might be, but it had the intended effect. The rather sleepy Senate leadership race quickly went from 0 to Mach 10 among the online right. MAGA posters began targeting the GOP senators listed as backing Cornyn or Thune, with some, including Trump social media guru Dan Scavino, sharing old clips of the pair criticizing Trump, while others openly threatened primaries and called senators traitors. Quote, if your senator has not vocally supported Rick Scott, they're likely voting Thune/Cornyn, conservative activist Robbie Starbuck wrote in a widely shared X post. Quote, this will become a major issue down the line if one of them wins. Grassroots won't forget this. So they're freaking out about it. Rolling Stone has, again, another version of this profile in. They go into more detail. Who is out of the race? Mitch McConnell. The Kentucky stalwart, 82, has been the GOP leader in the Senate since 2007. Although the men viscerally dislike one another, McConnell was booed at Trump's 2024 convention. McConnell and Trump were fully aligned on tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans and the Republican takeover of the judiciary, in particular the Supreme Court. And again, to that effect, McConnell was extremely useful to Trump and Trump to McConnell. They were successful in that score. When Trump was first on the ballot, McConnell blocked Barack Obama's nomination of Merrick Garland to the high court on the pretext that it had come too close to the election, only to jam through the confirmation of Amy Coney Barrett 4 years later, even closer to the 2020 election. Again, a staggering hypocrisy. The Republicans actually packed the court. People talk about court packing and how dangerous it is and how Democrats should never advocate for court packing. Well, it was Mitch McConnell who used bad faith Senate politics to pack the court and give Donald Trump and the Republicans a 6-3 conservative supermajority. Did they expand the court from 9 justices? No, but they certainly packed it. And by the way, court expansion, increasing the number of justices on the Supreme Court, that has been part and parcel of American history. It's been done multiple times. It was done even by the founding fathers. President John Adams and President Thomas Jefferson expanded and shrank the size of the court for openly political reasons, and they were founding fathers. So this idea that it's never been done before, it could never be done, and it couldn't be done for political reasons is nonsense. The founding fathers did it as well. McConnell was probably the last Republican who could have blocked Trump's political recovery after January 6th, but despite declaring Trump politically and morally responsible for the Capitol insurrection, McConnell weakly led the Senate GOP in punting on conviction during the second impeachment, which would have disqualified Trump from seeking the presidency again. And again, we talked about this. McConnell probably, unlike Nancy Pelosi, Mitch McConnell probably did not want to leave the Republican leadership. And in many ways, he's been a very effective Republican leader. He's very Machiavellian. People call him a great strategist. I don't know about that, but he is an excellent tactician. Mitch McConnell was very good at racking up short-term Republican wins at the expense of the long-term cohesion and credibility of the Senate. He's very good at that short-term game. But Republicans hate him. Many Republicans do. As a matter of fact, including many Republican politicians, Rick Scott, Josh Hawley, Ted Cruz, openly revolting against McConnell in a way that they didn't in the pre-Trump era, because they recognize that Trump is the leader of the party and he is beloved by the MAGA cult, not McConnell. So McConnell, in his own way, is kind of like this, Dr. Frankenstein, right? He helped create this monster that is Trump, thinking that he could use him, and has ultimately become a political victim of Trump. McConnell's being pushed out as a consequence of this. And so now you have John Thune. So let's look at John Thune and John Cornyn. The South Dakota Senator, this is John Thune. The South Dakota Senator has been McConnell's second in command as the GOP Senate whip since 2019. Thune has held his Senate seat since 2004 when he defeated Democratic incumbent Tom Daschle, who was the Senate Majority Leader. Thune, a one-time lobbyist, is seen as a favorite of corporate K Street interests, along McConnell's base of power. Thune once worked for the railroad lobby, and he's been credited with blocking rail safety reforms after the horrific 2023 derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. Again, another irony there that Republicans are happy to use this particular train derailment. And by the way, many occur every year, but they focused on this one because they wanted to use it as a political wedge issue against President Biden. And then, of course, they either create a problem or exacerbate a problem for political reasons and then block any attempts to actually address the problem, kind of like what they did with the southern border. That's what John Thune does. Thune endorsed Tim Scott during the GOP presidential primary. So, of course, Thune is I don't think that Thune has enough of a spine to truly stand up to Trump in a meaningful way, but he's probably more inclined to do so than Rick Scott, which is why MAGA wanted Rick Scott. John Cornyn, the other person. Cornyn has been a Texas senator since 2002. He's held the post of whip prior to John Thune from 2015 to 2019. Where Ted Cruz has been an obstructionist ideologue, Cornyn is more identified with the big business wing of the GOP. Cornyn has money ties to the GOP conference as a former chair of the National Republican Senatorial Committee, the fundraising arm for Senate Republicans. Previously, Cornyn served as the Attorney General in Texas and also as a Texas Supreme Court judge. In 2023, Cornyn opined that Trump's time had, quote, passed him by and insisted the MAGA leader would need to look, quote, beyond his base to win again. And then he later came around and endorsed Trump. So let's be clear. This is still going to be a Republican Senate majority, and Donald Trump will almost certainly get his way far more often than not. And I don't think either of these two have a particular appetite to stand up to Trump, knowing that within the Republican Party, at a bare minimum, he has a mandate, and they are the odd men out. But to the extent that there will be any resistance, any at all, it will be from John Thune and John Cornyn and not Rick Scott. So that's why MAGA is so upset about the defeat of Rick Scott. And again, this is a small victory. This is a silver lining. It's still a bad situation all the way around, but we need to make note of it. And to the extent that it can provide us any comfort at all, take comfort in it. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.